haven't talked about is the color of our tongue. So we actually should be looking at our tongue, and when we're fasting, you're probably going to notice it change from day 1 through day 7. And what typically happens is we typically will get more of like a coating on our tongue as we're fasting. And it can be anything from like a thick white to almost like a light yellow. And that's your body's way of expressing not just toxins, but potential yeast imbalance, any other types of gut imbalances or infections. And so that's why I really love tongue scraping, just to clear that off. But when your tongue goes back to a bright pink and there's no more coating, that's typically a good indication that now's a good time to break your fast. And not in a bad sense, it's just your body has already gone through and cleaned out everything that it's going to clean out during this fast. The other thing is, if you do get the actual hunger pains and your tummy won't stop grumbling and you're starting to get that like cramping feeling in your stomach because you're like, oh my gosh, I'm actually really hungry now. It's not just that you're thinking about food. It's like, I gotta eat. That's a good sign of needing to break the fast. And then if you're getting headaches or really, really, really like deep throbbing, aching pain, and the electrolytes are not helping, time to break your fast. So those are the big ones that I typically see most often.
Right.
And tell people, yeah, it's probably a good time for you to break your fast now. You've got the benefits that you were supposed to this time, and you can always go back in a few months and do another one.
The only pushback I'll give on some of that is on the breaking it because you feel the hunger thing. And in general, you're right. But also assess, what is your body doing at that moment? Are you under a period of stress? If you are, maybe try to mitigate the stress, and maybe it's not time to end it yet. I gave the example a couple of days ago where I was really upset, day number 3 of this fast, and my stomach growled for 45 minutes in a row. And I could have easily said, okay, well, that's my body telling me it's time to end the fast. But I knew what was going on. I was highly stressed, really upset about something that had happened. But what I did was meditate, get sunshine, grounded, all the things, and deep breathing. And within 2 hours, I was able to come back from that. And now here I am in day number 7. So I guess assess why that hunger's happening.
Of course. And let me do one more thing. Go back through all those tools that we talked about, especially during the beginning. And if none of those things are taking care of it,
yes,
if it's not going away,
that's right.
You increase the electrolytes, you've gone and, contemplated what's going on. Am I really stressed? If none of that is working, then it's time to break the fast. Especially if you're starting to get lightheaded and starting to see like the little stars when you stand up and things like that. Definitely time to break the fast.
Oh.
Dr. Amir, what were you going to say?
Okay.
Oh, okay. I was going to share a little bit too. Understand that a lot of times when those hunger pains are coming on, you gotta understand too that your metabolic rate is being driven further and further up because your body is trying to give you enough energy to go and find food. And so what happens is there are changes in the rate of mobilizations of fatty acids. And so that also sometimes contributes to it because there are other things that are being released at the same time, particularly some of the bile and some of these other things that are occurring, which can cause a little bit of stomach discomfort. So it's good to keep that in mind too. The thing that I would say most for me in terms of like the prolonged fasting, especially as you get, as you start to kiss day 10, day 12, something like that, that's when you want to make sure that you consider your heart muscle, right? Because you have what's called the protein sparing effect that comes in after about 48, 72 hours. You start getting protein sparing effect. And most of the protein that you're losing initially is not muscle. So let me debunk that because there are a lot of people who try to spread that. No, it's mostly excess skin and hair. But once you get to day 72 hours or so, and you got this protein sparing effect going on, but now you're out towards day 12, right? The thing that you got to think about is your heart muscle, because at a certain point, the body will then want to use more protein eventually. And so the thing that sometimes I would say for somebody is, if you begin to have more chest pains and you can't, if you have chest pains or you having something like that, consider doing like modified protein fasting, where you have maybe one shake a day, like a protein shake or something like that. And the reason that you're doing that is because you want to protect that heart muscle, right? And so that's the only caveat, right? But as far as the longest recorded fast was 300 and some odd days. It was like a day short of a year or something like that.
380.
And the person had,
I think it's close to 380 days.
Yeah, and that fast, the person had some minor electrolyte stuff,
yes,
but primarily was fairly healthy. So is it possible to fast for a long time? Absolutely. But what are your intentions? Why are you fasting, right? By the time you've got to day 10, day 12, you've made significant progress. For example, in terms of your bad cholesterol, LDL cholesterol, right? Your LDL cholesterol has been reduced quite substantially. Your good cholesterol, HDL, has been increased. Typically, if you had blood pressure issues, those blood pressure numbers have gone down. Your insulin, your basal insulin levels have gone way down. You've immobilized a lot of fat. So if you were insulin resistant, you're probably becoming more sensitive to insulin. So this is good for the type 2 diabetic. You have your triglycerides have been being mobilized, and prayerfully you've been hydrating the entire time so that you can properly get rid of those triglycerides. Those are those fatty acids that are floating around, so that you don't get gallstones and things like that. So you want to make sure that you're consuming a lot of water. But at that point, right, the biggest thing I say is just think about protein. A protein shake to sustain you if you're going longer than that. But most of the indices that you're looking for, a lot of those objectives you've achieved. And then the other thing that I wanted to put with all of that is that when you're coming off a fast, just making sure that you don't cause yourself to go into refeeding syndrome. So taking it very, very slow.
Yeah.
And you're going to get several days. You're going to get several days of additional burn. This is the beauty of it. As you slowly reintroduce stuff that your stomach can handle, right? You're going to get extra burn during that time. You're going to get extra benefits. So while you may have water fasted 10, 12 days, you have additional time in ketosis, right? And so I just wanted to share that. I hope that some of that has been helpful.
Thank you. Yeah, we're going to get into breaking a fast here in a minute. So thank you for preview. That's called segue in a minute, you guys. So thank you, Dr. Amir. Dr. Rebecca came on stage. I wanted to let her talk. So we're talking about extending the fast. A few people have said, hey, I feel good, Rebecca. Can I go longer than 7 days? What say you? Are you there, Rebecca?
She says nothing.
So let me go to Jimmy on Clubhouse. Norma says, stopped at 120 hours yesterday. I kept getting worse. Remember yesterday she was describing how she wasn't doing so well. So she stopped at 120, had some bone broth. Within a half an hour, she felt 100% better. I'm glad I listened to my body and I feel good today. So that's good. That's what we want, right, Dax?
Yeah, Jimmy. I wanted to mention, yes, that is good. And I'm glad, actually, based on what she said yesterday about her situation, anytime you're questioning whether you should continue or not, it's always better to err on the side of caution. So I'm glad she did that. I did want to say, with regard to Dr. Caitlin was talking about natural hunger, we had spoken earlier in the week about exercising during a fast, and light exercise, in my experience, is fine. Walk a mile, half mile, just walk around the block, get some circulation going. But toward the middle and end of the fast, if you're really wanting to be in tune with your body and sensitive to that natural hunger, I always tend to limit or eliminate all physical exercise. I try to rest more, try to be more in tune with my body. The longest fast I've done is a 15-day water fast, and on day 14, that's when I felt my natural hunger come back, and I also felt that it was time to break the fast. But I didn't, from day probably 8 to 14, I wasn't hungry at all, but I knew that as soon as I needed to break that fast at that time.
Yeah, that's good. And listening to your body is definitely a theme song I've heard all week long. Dr. Rebecca, you back? Nope. She popped up. Hopefully she
Also,
hit. Yeah, go ahead.
she was going to share something on the women's health piece of it because you know several days before menses and all these other things, women have some extra things to take consideration of in terms of how they fast and how they do it.
Yeah.
Women have a little bit more complexity, and so I love it when the women doctors come in and share these things, because I think it's better for you to hear it from a woman who has actually experienced it rather than just some male who knows the information.
Yeah, Caitlin and Rebecca both have been definitely schooling all of us dudes on all that information, so we're grateful. So thank you for pointing that out. Let me go back to Jimmy on Clubhouse on Instagram. Marcus says, I'm feeling better today, day 6, than I did on day 1. Probably wouldn't have made it if I had not had the support of this group. Thanks to all. This is why we do these things. Like I think the corporateness of it all. I know Brian's up on stage and he said the same thing to me in a comment of, I couldn't have done this if we didn't have the corporateness. So this is why I like doing these things, Caitlin, because people, it's not that they don't have the motivation to want to fast, but there's just something about doing it corporately with others that just the camaraderie keeps you going.
Yeah, it's the accountability. And it's an ancestral thing that when a group is doing something, you want to join in and you want to contribute and you want to go along with it. And so it makes it so much easier. And I actually love doing group fasts because I do better when I'm doing a group fast versus just doing it by myself, even though I've done hundreds of fasts and I've been doing it for years upon years upon years. I just find that when I'm doing it with other people, you get better results. It's more motivating, and it's so fun to hear how everyone is progressing and to be like, oh, I'm not the only one feeling like crap today.
Right.
Wait, like there's other people who are like pushing through, and I don't mean pushing through. If you need to break it, but it's just so much easier. So I agree 100%.
Oh, can I chime in real quick?
Please.
And here's the thing too, I wanted to share with people too. Obviously you do need to listen to your body, but understand that if you're a naive faster, i.e. you haven't been doing this, you haven't done it before, it's your first time doing it, some things can be a little bit more prolonged for you. For example, how fast your body gets into ketosis, how efficient your body becomes at breaking down those fatty acids. It may take a little bit longer if you're a naive faster. In other words, this is one of your first times, if not your first time fasting. Definitely it could take a little while, because I heard the lady that said at 4 days she had to stop, she took some bone broth.
Yes.
And that's great, but I would say going forward, like as you if you decide to do it again, all those kind of things, you're gonna find that some of the things that you experience, you're gonna experience it earlier, and it's not gonna be as prolonged. So that's just because your body is just kind of in that shock mode, like, oh, what is this? and so that's just part of that picture. But yeah, definitely when we do things as a community, it's doing things as a community. Since we were made for community, it's easier than doing things alone. And
for
that's
sure.
Just in all facets of life.
Absolutely. Back on Jimmy on Clubhouse on Instagram, Norma said, I did have a victory during my fast. I have had severe Achilles heel pain for the past 3 years. By day 3 of this fast, it was all better. And today the pain is still gone. That's cool. Really cool. Good job, Norma. And thank you for hanging in there. All right, so we're going to reset the room, and I want to bring up how we break the fast before we get to your questions, you guys. But this is Keto for the Soul. Definitely click on the green house at the very top. You can subscribe to this Clubhouse. Lots of great Clubhouse rooms all day long. Go check it out. We are in the midst of a 7-day water fasting challenge. Today is officially day number 6. A bunch of us up on stage are deep into the fast. So definitely, if you're into fasting, you've been doing this with us and you haven't spoken on stage, or even if you have, come on up, tell us your story, ask us your questions, and we'll get you on the air. But I do want to shift to, since we are on day 6, Caitlin, how do you break a fast? Because it's not just a matter of just reintroducing food. That's the easy part of thinking that's what it is. It's so much more complex, and Amir kind of previewed it. Tell us how you talk to your patients about this.